Imagine, just for a moment, the most audacious thought experiment you've ever heard. What if New York City truly became the only city left on the entire planet? No Paris, no Shanghai, no São Paulo, no Cairo, nothing, just New York. The entire human family, every single one of the 8 billion, 100 million people alive today, would have to call this one place home. Right now, as we zoom slowly into this hand-drawn sketch of Manhattan, surrounded by endless ocean, you can already feel how strange and lonely that idea is. Today, those same 5 boroughs house just 8.3 million souls across 302 square miles. But if we try to squeeze the whole world in, the numbers stop being numbers and become almost poetic in their absurdity. 8.1 billion divided by 302 square miles equals roughly 26,820,000 human beings per single square mile. That's 237 times denser than Dhaka, the most crowded city on Earth right now. As this chalkboard fills with careful white lettering, watch the calculator sketch appear in the corner. The math is merciless. Look at these bar charts we've drawn. Manila, Mumbai, Cairo. Their bars already look extreme. But the final bar for our scenario shoots straight off the edge of the page and keeps going into infinity. Even the most basic physical reality check is devastating. If every person stood perfectly still, shoulder to shoulder, we would still need 40 times the entire land area of Manhattan just to give everyone a place to stand. So the honest, unflinching answer, written in bold red ink across the engineer's notebook page, is simple. It is physically impossible at this scale. But here's where the real intellectual adventure begins. Instead of giving up, we gently cross out the fantasy version and the magic version, and we underline in pencil, realistic version. What if the world's entire urban population converged on New York-style infrastructure? What if the city simply had to grow and absorb everyone? What would that actually require? In bricks, in water, in politics, in the human soul. That's the serious, respectful thought experiment we are about to walk through together, scene by scene, like 2 curious planners leaning over the same sketchbook. Let's begin with the most immediate question every urban planner would ask. Where on earth would 8 billion people actually live? We open the sketchbook to a detailed cross-section of a typical Manhattan block today. Brownstones, tenements, towers, fire escapes, water tanks, and we count the housing units. 3.2 million homes right now, but we need 3.24 billion. Look at the scale comparison on the analytical paper. The little filled square for today's stock looks almost comical next to the enormous outline square that bleeds off every edge of the frame. Even if we pushed engineering to its absolute limit, 400-story towers rising like needles into the sky, each human figure at the base becoming invisible, we would still have to construct 162 million new housing units every single year for the next 20 years. That's 115 times the entire current construction output of the United States. Manhattan's legendary schist bedrock is a miracle, but it only exists under 23 square miles. So the city must expand in great concentric waves. 50 miles, 100 miles, 300 miles, swallowing Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, and everything in between until the entire eastern seaboard becomes one continuous urban fabric. We draw a realistic megablock inspired by the best of Hong Kong and Singapore. 60 to 80-story towers with sky gardens, pedestrian bridges, podiums full of life. 15,000 people per city block sounds impressive until you realize we would need millions of such blocks. And even then, history whispers a warning. We turn the page to 4 haunting panels. 1,900 New York tenements, Mumbai's Dharavi, Manila's Tanda, the legendary Kowloon walled city at 1.25 million people per square mile. This is what ultra-density has always looked like on the ground. Not sleek renderings, but stacked lives, laundry lines, and extraordinary human resilience. At the planner's desk, we see the red pen crossing out impossible in some zones and circling feasible with massive expansion in others, with sticky notes reminding us 300-mile radius minimum, 50 years of non-stop construction, and in the end it won't look like New York, it will look like one endless coastal megalopolis. Once everyone has a place to sleep, the next urgent question is, how do we feed them? Today, New York is already a marvel of logistics. Arrows radiating across the continent, bringing produce from California, grain from Kansas, beef from Texas. But scale that up to 8 billion people, and the supply map becomes almost frightening in its complexity. Every single day, this one city would need to consume 2.5 billion kilograms of food. That's the same as 125,000 fully loaded Boeing 747 cargo planes landing around the clock. The blackboard fills with careful chalk calculations, and the comparison bar for today's 20 million kilograms looks tiny. We would need every acre of North American farmland operating at maximum yield, plus huge additional zones from South America. Water demand explodes from 1.1 billion gallons a day to more than 2 trillion. Desalination plants would have to line the entire coast, 180,000 of them, 9 times the current global total. Energy calculations are equally staggering. At American per capita levels, we would need 12 times today's entire world energy production. Even at modest Bangladeshi levels, it would still be almost twice global output. And the terrifying vulnerability becomes clear in the fragility diagram. All supply lines now converge on one single point. One drought, one blight, one political disruption, one transport failure, and everyone feels it instantly. The historical panels of the Irish famine, Bengal, Leningrad, and even recent COVID shocks remind us, when you put all your eggs in one basket the size of a city, the basket had better never break. 540 to 840 ACT for governance and society. But feeding and housing the body is only the beginning. Governing the mind, the culture, and the spirit of 8 billion people in one place may be the hardest problem humanity has ever faced. We look at New York's neat organizational chart and simply cannot stretch it. 51 council members become nearly 50,000. We would need 35 million police officers, more human beings than currently live in the entire country of Canada. 7,168 living languages would echo through the same streets. 10,000 distinct religious traditions would compete for skyline space in one impossible composite of steeples, minarets, pagodas, and domes. Every legal tradition on Earth would have to be folded into a single municipal code. History offers no comfort. We study the Mongol Empire, Rome, Britain, the Soviet Union. None ever administered more than about 500 million from a single center before cracks appeared. Corruption diagrams show the oversight web becoming an impossible tangle at this scale. Inequality would be carved vertically into the very architecture of the towers. Yet in the middle of all this tension, we also draw the most joyful scene in the entire documentary. Cultural cross-pollination exploding like fireworks. Instruments blending, cuisines fusing, artists collaborating on street corners. New York has already proven, block by block, decade by decade, that extreme diversity can work. Lower East Side, Harlem, Chinatown, Jackson Heights. 800 languages spoken in Queens today. The only plausible model we can sketch is an ambitious multi-layered federation. Neighborhood councils, borough assemblies, megacity districts, regional legislatures, and a world city senate. Something even more sophisticated than the European Union. Still, the political theorist's chalkboard delivers the verdict with sobering clarity. Feeding it and housing it may be extremely difficult, but technically solvable. Governing it and maintaining social cohesion at this scale has no historical precedent whatsoever. The physical machinery required would dwarf anything humans have ever built. The subway map becomes a solid block of ink. 12 billion rides every day, trains arriving every 12 seconds on every line. Waste would reach 13.7 trillion pounds daily, enough to build mountains taller than Manhattan itself. Sewage volume would require treatment capacity the size of entire states. Central Park shared equally would give each person an area smaller than a postage stamp. Air would grow thick with the collective breath and industry of 8 billion. The heat island effect would turn the entire region 20 to 30 degrees hotter than the countryside around it. Energy solutions push us toward 15,000 nuclear reactors, more than 30 times today's global fleet, or heroic renewable arrays that still fall short at American consumption levels. Hospitals would need 20 billion beds. Schools alone would require 2.6 million buildings, enough to cover the current New York land area 12 times over. Yet the Engineering Summit room leaves us with a nuanced assessment written across the whiteboard. Physically possible with a 300-mile expansion and technologies not yet at scale, but only with political will beyond any precedent in human history, and only after 50 to 100 years of relentless construction. Finally, we step back and look at what disappears when everywhere else empties. Paris standing silent, ivy climbing the Eiffel Tower, foxes crossing empty boulevards, the Ganges flowing without pilgrims. Sacred places that cannot be moved. Traditional farming knowledge tied to specific soils and communities now left without custodians. Economically, the cycle breaks. A city without a hinterland is no longer truly a city. It becomes something stranger, a civilization compressed into one spot. The psychological cost is equally real. Humans evolved needing wildness, forests, horizon lines. 8 billion people limited to urban parks would face measurable increases in anxiety and disconnection. And yet we already see the real-world experiment running in Lagos, Dhaka, Delhi, Tokyo, Shanghai, each struggling heroically with the very same pressures we have calculated, only at 1,000th scale. So here is the honest forecast written in careful handwriting. The city would expand into a vast 2 to 300-mile coastal megalopolis that feels more like connected cities than one single place. Agriculture would continue across the continent as its essential hinterland. Governance would demand an unprecedented global federal structure. And the rest of the planet would rapidly rewild, forests returning in decades, just as they did around Chernobyl. Now we come to the harder, quieter question that the philosophical balance scale refuses to tilt for us. Even if it were technically possible, should we actually want this future? This entire thought experiment, drawn page after page in our shared sketchbook, ultimately teaches us something profound and hopeful. Cities need hinterlands to breathe. Density has real limits written into physics, biology, and the human heart. Distributed systems are more resilient than any single point of concentration. And humanity's glorious diversity of languages, faiths, cuisines, stories, and ways of being is not a problem to be solved by consolidation. It is the feature that makes us alive. New York could never be the only city in the world. Not because our engineers or planners weren't clever enough, but because the world is simply too large, too deeply rooted in place, too wonderfully diverse, and too vibrantly alive to ever fit inside one borough. This thought experiment teaches us something beautiful and important. Cities need hinterlands. Density has real physical and psychological limits. Distributed systems are more resilient. And humanity's diversity is not a bug, it's the feature. New York could never be the only city in the world. Not because of engineering, but because the world is too large, too diverse, too rooted in place, and too alive to fit in one borough. New York's greatest gift to the world is not that it could contain humanity. New York's truest and greatest gift to humanity has never been the dream of containing the world. It is the living proof, every single day, on every single street, that difference in density and humanity can still find a way to coexist, to argue, to create, to care for one another, and to thrive. The question was never whether New York could hold the world. It already does, in spirit, in energy, in the beautiful chaos of 800 languages spoken in Queens, in the quiet pride of a bodega owner, in the skyline reflected in the harbor at dusk. And that perhaps is more than enough. Thank you for sitting with me through every sketch, every calculation, and every quiet realization. Now go look out your window and appreciate the many cities, the many places, the many stories that make our world whole.